Welcome to a replay of one of our many excellent talks from Secure Southwest 15, and thanks again to our sponsors Securius, C3IA, CrowdStrike and the British Computer Society, and most importantly our prime sponsor, the UK Government Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport.
So we've already heard a little bit from Mark and his contribution to the panel. He's kindly spared the time for a presentation slot as well, which is around broadening the view of cyber students, driven by the work and activities of the Cyber Resilience Centre. So Mark, the floor is yours. Might have to lift that.
I'm going to sit down so the microphone works. I'm hoping that the clicker bit works as well in a minute. If it doesn't, you'll have to bear with me. Thank you, Robin, actually, for the invite today. Apologies to the rest of you if you feel like you're being overly bored by me today. It's a real pleasure and a privilege, actually, to see so many people here and have the chance to address you, because I constantly come to these events and feel like the least expert person in the whole room. I remember last year, I shared a minute ago that my day job is a cop, and I remember the last year being asked to come along and talk to this erudite group about what the cyber threat looked like. And I can share 12 months down the line. I thought, crikey, if they don't know, I'm stuffed if I do. But it's nice to have been invited back. Something must have worked last year. I'm going to talk to you about the Cyber Resilience Centre and a small piece of work that we're doing. It's a small drop in a very large ocean of what we need to do, but to try and bring students into a world where they can contribute some of the active threats to UK PLC at the moment, and the way that we're trying to play that very, very small part in the picture. But briefly, before I do, I will talk momentarily about myself. So I've said that the day job for me is a cop. I'm seconded to head up the Cyber Resilience Centre, which covers the whole of the region. It's an odd one because I'm a company director. I've got my own bank account. My salary is paid for by policing, and no one can ever get their head around that very much. I'll try and cut to the chase. The reason that we are doing that as policing regionally and nationally is because if you were to be burgled and ask me how to make your house more secure, I would not recommend to you any given manufacturer, window lock, door lock, locksmith, burglar alarm, because I can't do that, because it kind of compromises the policing badge if I say this is how to get you safe and then you're burgled again. That equates to all other aspects of our policing activity too. So if somebody is cyber broken into, is that a thing? And I say, I can't tell you how to get safe. It doesn't work very well. We can all find our way around the door locks conversation, but finding our way around that, how do I get safe in cyber terms, is far more difficult. So bridging that gap between public and private, the point of us is that we can move people towards this is what a good service, a good product might look like. We can do things practically for you that are slightly more intrusive. So that's one of many reasons why I'm a slight oddity today. I'm going to talk to you about the student pipeline. I was almost inclined to start with a totally blank screen here, because it kind of feels like the thing that we're trying to do here is fill something of a void, and I think it is a very, very genuine one. No, the clicker's not working. Fabulous. I'm going to look at the gentleman. Oh, there we go. There, right. I think there's just a time lag. So I guess I want to start off by talking about three different perspectives of the situation as it exists. Much of this anecdotal. I'm expecting to see a fair few nods around the room, to be honest, because I've spoken to enough of you and of peers and of people like you in the past. The problem, I guess, for the sector is that when you're hiring, you are struggling to find the right candidates. It's that piece around the skills shortage and a talent shortage. There is a lack of candidates interested and switched on to cyber security as a career. We've heard some of the reasons. We've heard some of the moves that are being made to try and develop that and address it. For those people, it's knowing where they start. You want somebody, as an employer generally, I think, who you know is going to be safe. So you want somebody that's got a bit of a track record. And if you look on your LinkedIn feeds, as I do on mine, there's a constant series of people saying, well, they wanted 18 years of experience in a product that's only been out there for 10. So So the barrier is set quite high, and actually knowing as an employer that you've got somebody safe to do the day job that you need is really tough if those courses and that experience isn't on offer to the good people that are doing computing degrees at local universities. So the skills gap piece appears to be a very, very real one. The other issue, of course, is that in an interview process, you inevitably want somebody that impresses you. Is that just me? I don't think it is. And actually, one of the things that we've found and certainly grappled with is that there isn't necessarily a clear overlap. Mike spoke earlier about the employability skills that he's delivering. There isn't necessarily a clear overlap between I am a technical expert and actually I understand how to speak to a business owner. I've done that kind of stuff. I'm really comfortable with it. I've got the presentational skills. So there's something there about just getting people out of a technical comfort zone and towards the area where they're really comfortable with the business-based conversations too. The other sort of aspects, and I suppose that we need to consider, see how the clicker's doing now, would be around the kind of student perspective. So the first thing is that we speak with a number of students from different universities. The Cyber Resilience Centre is currently engaged with 3 around the area, UE, Plymouth and Bournemouth. And they are really interested in IT. Are they really interested in cyber security? Is that a separate thing? Do they understand how to progress through that career path? Sometimes yes, often no, and they don't understand kind of how to move to that next step. So if they don't understand what that next step looks like, then the question is, well, why would I take it? Why would I move away from what might feel like a core central bit around IT to something that now feels specialist? What frankly are the opportunities in that career world? What does the pay look like in that world? And who are the role models that I can turn to understand how I should get on? And inevitably, one of the things that I'm really happy to kind of say, I think this one's a fact. If I speak to people who are interested, and I have quite a lot, in cybersecurity coming out of that student environment, very often they default to an extremely narrow range of options. They'll talk to me about GCHQ. They might talk to me about NCSC. They won't talk to me about any of the employers generally that are sitting in the room today locally, because they don't have that detailed knowledge of what a local landscape looks like. It's kind of the James Bondy world is where I hear a lot of these conversations situated, because inevitably it's what we see in the headlines, isn't it? It's the Russian stuff, it's the state actors, it's those national campaigns, rather than actually the realities of the view that I can see and you can't tragically at the moment, but the businesses that are sitting out there in Plymouth and beyond. And that's a real challenge, I think, about making them understand how they can interface with something that does feel really, really important. Because when I think when we talk about critical national infrastructure, we're talking about colonial, we're talking about big pipelines, we're talking about nuclear threats. We're not talking about the 200 businesses along the local high street. And actually, I would argue that collectively, they probably are critical national infrastructure, aren't they? But in a slightly different way. But gosh, we've all struggled to deal without some of the services and those providers during the time of pandemic. And I think we appreciate now far more than we did how important those small businesses and those micro businesses are to keeping the wheels turning for our everyday lives. So the last aspect I want to talk about, it's like Jeopardy, this. I'm going to push again. Oh, go back one. Yeah, shall I just do the Chris Whitty thing and shout next? Does that work? For those of you that are squeamish, don't look at the dog's tail. It's a genuine image here. When I searched for small business, and I thought, yeah, I mean, for those of you doing the maths, small business, just think about it for a moment. There's a punchline here, but there's also the really genuine risk, and it's why I chose this image to talk about small businesses. When you search for something on Google, you don't always get what you think you're going to get, and we've spoken, haven't we, about some of the challenges of accreditation, how the council's trying to come to that. But if I run a small business, my challenge is I don't know what good looks like. I don't know who I should trust. I don't know how credible they are. I probably know that they're quite expensive, But all of that stuff makes it really difficult for me to engage with cyber security and cyber resilience. And if I don't have an appreciation that actually, we spoke about the 40% statistic earlier today, that actually this stuff does happen to small businesses and people like me, then I'm not going to engage. So I think the image becomes a bit of a parallel for my level of interest in cybersecurity when I run a small business. So there are a host of issues, the expense, who do I trust, that just make it really difficult. So there you go. We might go back to slide 1, which was almost blank on that basis. We've got a bunch of employers who can't find the right people, a bunch of students that don't necessarily know how to get into this world, and a huge potential demand pool that's not actually interfacing with either at the moment because they just don't understand very well how to. So that's where, next one, please. Thank you, so kind. That's where I think the Southwest Cyber Resilience Centre is trying to come in and fill some of that gap. So, as I said, we're not for profit and police-led company, and we are here to look after those small businesses throughout the region. There's a national network of these centres that sprung up now. London is coming on board as the last one in the year, and that will play in some of the conversation that I have a little bit later. What do we do? As Peter pointed out, I've transitioned recently. I'll tell you a secret, don't quote me. I don't know that much about cyber, but I don't need to, because I spend most of my time talking to small businesses about why they shouldn't recycle the same passwords, and actually about what backup means, and the fact that they're in the cloud doesn't mean that they're backed up. It's that sort of really basic stuff that we all smile, but they don't know that, and that's the bar for cyber resilience very often. What the Cyber Resilience Centre does for local businesses is a 3-stage offer, and I'm going to run through it and talk about the second one in more detail. So first of all, for those small businesses that sign up for us, we give them a monthly review on all the things they should be clicking on, not clicking on, and updating. We talk to them about the basic NCSC guidance that's out there, and we talk them through that where they need a little bit of help and support because they've still not understood how to put 2FA onto the Facebook account that they use to communicate with all their customers. The second stage of the offer is a more intrusive one, I'm going to say. It's a bit where policing would certainly fall off. So this is the student services piece that I'm going to talk about today. And it's a way in which you as a small business owner can bring an expert into your business that understands cyber, that will look at your systems, that will look at your processes, and that will give you a really professional report at the end. And they're not going to cost you a sum of money that, frankly, you didn't have available. Probably all listened to the news this morning, Rishi Sunak and the kind of prevailing budgetary situation, but cash is not in ready supply out there for small business owners at the moment. The last thing that we do is that we do also provide onward referrals. So in a Google world where you get small dogs doing their business on the lawn, we will provide small business owners with a reference point and a signpost to a local company that is certified to offer cyber essentials. So we know that they know the basics of cyber resilience and cyber security. And on that basis, we will say, we can pass you to somebody that might feel like you can trust. But you take your chances. They're not, forgive me, many of them are in the room. They're not necessarily the best at everything they do, but you know what? They're really good people. They know the basics. And that feels like a better place to start than Google or DuckDuckGo. Other search engines are available. Thank you. So how does the student piece work? The first thing to say is that what we're not offering is something where we'll get somebody in to dabble with your systems. So every student that works with us will be insured. They will be working under the supervision of people that have done this kind of stuff at a national level. They'll be mentored, they'll be put through specific training, there will be some skills to task matching. And if they're trying to find out, for example, do the web app vulnerability assessment piece, they won't just be toying around on 15 random tools that they've discovered. They'll be working to a clear kind of to-do list, if you like. So for small businesses, what happens is they call us up and they say, I am a predominantly internet-based business, but I don't really know if my website's safe or not. And we'll get somebody in to run through a test for them. So we'll go through all the kind of non-disclosure agreement stuff. We will agree what the scope of that is. We'll put a contract letter out to them. they'll sign it, we'll set a timescale for delivery, and at the tail end of that, we'll report back to the client with a kind of 20 to 30 page report generally that says, here are the screenshots of what we found, here are the areas of vulnerability, here are the recommendations. So there's a really professional piece, and that is led by the student team that we have on board, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. So they very much get to put into place the abstract skills that they've learned on their courses in a very real world sense. And they get the feedback direct from business owners. I don't understand that. Tell me about it, because I didn't get it. And actually, there's often a stage where the supplier says, no, that's nonsense. And we say, no, it's not. Here are the reasons why. So that kind of process is a really important one where they start to develop the confidence of I can operate within a business environment, and I do know what the kind of imperatives of this business community are. We also do an awful lot of work to engage students through other activities where we can. So there's a big support group that we're pulling together, and they're all on their own Discord channel. I didn't know what that was until a year ago, but I'm on Discord now. And we'll bring them together for webinars. I'm running a program with Leonardo, who are one of my sponsors, up in Bristol fairly shortly, where we bring them together with some UE students and just get them to talk about individual opportunities and links into large employers around the region. So there's an important piece there. Thank you. What are the kind of scope of services that we offer? You can see them now. I'm not going to run through them all. The first round is essentially a technical one. So the remote internal website vulnerability stuff, a policy review stuff. So we'll come in and look at actually what are your resilience plans, which is really important, not just how do you stop being a victim, but inevitably when you are a victim, if someone's really gunning for you, how are you going to recover from it? Because that can be okay if you've done everything that you can. And actually, what does the lady or gent in accounts do when they get that strange unexpected invoice? We can reality check some of that stuff for you. We can also do bespoke training pieces, but very often I try and recommend back to my colleagues in core policing who will do that for free, but are largely unknown of in the business community. They're a sadly underused resource. And the last bit, I like to drop a bit of technical stuff in to make it sound like I do what I'm talking about. OSINT, open source intelligence stuff. There you go, I've learned that one. So we will look at kind of what's out there on social media that might be used against you. And very often that lifts the scales from people's eyes because they really weren't expecting it. The ninth service, really interesting one. Sounds secret, but I call it the ninth service. So the other thing that we do is, I said we have a number of trusted partners around us. If they're struggling for capacity, we will loan them our students, as it were, on a day rate. So actually they can improve the links with local employers, and it helps with some of the admittedly lower level stuff around capacity. You know, I've got a huge commission around pen tests. The students aren't able to do that, but they could do these bits of it, and that would really help me. So we try and link them in with that and improve what we do for everybody there. Thank you. So that's the extent of what student services look like. What does the process look like from the student side? I came into this with not very much knowledge about what good looks like in the cyber world, and I guess I would have expected in the abstract, looking at Akim there, so we would have been approaching, you know, the Russell Group universities around the area and grabbing top 10 students in terms of marks, and jobs are good and it's nice and easy, isn't it? Actually, no, the approach that we've taken has been that we've tended towards the universities which I guess have a very practical bent in terms of their courses. So I'm working currently with Plymouth and UE and with Bournemouth, as I mentioned, at a fairly low level at the moment. I'll come back to that. We say to them, would you consider letting us go into your students? So we'll do that virtually so far. And we'll talk to them about the scheme, what it looks like, and invite applications from them, which are nothing more than an expression of interest. We try and open that up as widely as we can, although it's up to the hosting university really. So we try and say, look, we don't care if it's an engineering student, as long as they've got the interest and a bit of background in cyber, we can take them through that training piece. But we are going to test that they've genuinely got the interest and they've done something about it. We run them through a sort of a two-stage interview, firstly to find out just the basics really, what drives them, why they're interested. And in the second stage, we asked them to go through one of those student service offerings and say, how would you consider delivering that sort of thing? What do you think would be the considerations and difficulties? If they get through that stage, we put them through an aspect of vetting is a strong word. to my shame, I can't recall the technical title for the bit that we do. It's certainly not the policing thing of we're going to check whether your third cousin's a Russian spy, but it is something around actually what are your previous references, what can we find out about you, are there flags that should make us concerned. So it's as good, I venture to say, as you would get in a private sector environment from any other employer. We put them through a bespoke training package for each product that they're likely to deliver. We make sure they're insured, they've got mentors in place, and so on. So that's kind of the process for us. And every time we need somebody to deliver a web app vulnerability assessment, we will look around the cadre and say, there's the individual with those skills, that's the person that we're going to use, and potentially we're going to double crew him or her with somebody else so that actually we can build that skill set and increase it for the future. So that's what the process looks like from the student perspective. Thank you. So I think this is really, really important, actually, and I'm talking specifically here about the South West Cyber Resilience Centre. We made a very, very conscious choice to align with the clusters that were in our area, which is why I'm grateful to be here today, and we're also linked up with Cynam and the north end of our patch. We are not here to undercut an existing cyber market. Our role, I keep describing, is the thin end of a wedge. So my job is to speak to all the people that aren't listening to the rest of you, probably, because they haven't got the money, they don't understand how to, and forgive me, they don't trust you, because they don't trust anybody, because consultants always want money, right? Policing kind of helps to get in through that door. We are, I hesitate to say we're a trusted badge when I keep seeing news about the Met, but I think in the Southwest we're still a trusted badge. And I can get business owners and groups to listen to us, to understand that this is a genuine issue. And then I can start to show them actually where those areas of vulnerability might be for them. So there's a whole market out there, and around half of our members are businesses that are 1 to 9. There's a whole market that is just not listening at the moment, and they really do need to be. We will not at any point say to them, aha, there's the vulnerability, there's the password management solution that you need. It's 20 quid a month. We can license it to you for 18 gov because we're good like that. What we do is we say to them, we've checked out this aspect of your provision, green lights in 18 areas. These 2 are red or amber. You might want to talk to somebody about that, getting your sites updated, doing the things. If you don't know how to do that, then we can refer you to one of our trusted partners, or we can tell you what the thing is and go to the private sector yourself. But at least you know then when you approach that business, you're not just saying, how do I get myself safer? A bit like the conversation where you go to the garage and say, what are these doing? Be gentle. Actually, what you're saying is, my third spigot sprocket needs fixing. And then they've got the confidence that they're likely to be getting a solution that's right for them. So that's the point. It's about making it accessible for them and for all those people that aren't engaging. So my goal and our goal, which I think is really important to say out loud, is not about undercutting or operating in places where everybody else is very happy, thank you. It's about the raft of conversation that isn't cyber security at the moment. It's just, I'm a small business owner and I don't know how to stay safe. That's where we operate, and that's our sweet spot. Thank you. I'm really conscious I could stand up here today and tell you that this is all awesome and fabulous, and it really isn't. So I've been in place for about 18 months now. There you go, picture of an airplane engine. Building the plane in flight is something that somebody on my team said, and it feels like that. We are kind of making it up as we go along a little bit. That's probably a bit strong, but we're in very early stages of this model. So at the moment, we've got 80 students nationally, and they are employed now by a national entity that's just come on board. So actually, although I'll try and deploy Southwest students to Southwest businesses, there's a far wider group, and I can use people from the Northeast and the Southeast if I need to too, and vice versa. We're employing more student leads to try and get on top of that. We're developing other networks within the region, starting to look at what that service offering could be like. So I'd like to offer a fixed price, 100 quid, and we'll look at your website and we'll tell you, against 5 different areas, whether you're good, bad, or indifferent. Because I think for small businesses, that's the kind of offer they want. So there's a definite development piece there. And our first graduates are now starting to move into the sector in terms of employability. There is clearly a host of development opportunity around this. You know, if we've got a regular cohort of 100 students nationally, then we can start to have conversations around accreditation for them, approaching CREST. We can start to talk about actually the opportunities to linking them in with private sector employers, even heaven forbid to linking them in with policing for a year, which is a gap for us, where they can provide something back. And I'd love to be having some of the conversations, you know, South Devon College, how do we link people in before university? But at the moment, I'm still concentrating on keeping that airplane in flight. But I hope in a year, and then a year beyond that, there'll be some really more interesting conversations to have around how we develop this. Thank you. I'm nearly at the end and I'm conscious of time. So that's probably about all that I wanted to cover off with you, Stella. I hope it's of interest as an initial kind of model. I think it's kind of a little bit unique, actually. The closing bit from me, because I've learned there has to be a call to action in all this stuff, it is just kind of let us be that thin end of the wedge for you. So I hope you can see the value of that model. The only way that it really flies is if people understand that there's a need for it and they understand there's something out there that can help them. So I kind of think it's in all of our interests. There's a wide understanding within the business community that somebody can help them, that there is the thin end of a wedge. And I think what that does is start to move that SME community to a place where they are comfortable to be having cyber security and cyber resilience discussions. And inevitably then they transition as they grow from this early stage basic offer towards something that's far more complicated and keeps them a great deal safer into the future. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for the time, Robin, and thank you for your attention.